Hello, my name is Lilikum. Today in this video I'm going to be talking about how to write exams as a private candidate when you're doing the Cambridge curriculum. This video applies whether you're writing your IGs, AS levels or A levels. And the first half is going to be the exam registration process, and the second half will be what exactly to expect if you're writing your first exam and you're feeling a bit nervous, just to put your mind to rest. So when you're writing an exam as a private candidate, you have to write it through an institution. You can't do it at home. So in the description of the video, I will link a whole bunch of schools and institutions that allow you to register to write an exam through their system as a private candidate. These schools and institutions will be mostly in the Cape Town-ish area because that is where I live and what I know about. However, I will also in the description put a link to the official Cambridge website where you can go and look for specific institutions that are verified by Cambridge to be written through them, so you can find the right school for you to go write at. Something to note when planning to write your exams is the 2-sitting rule. Since kids who write the Cambridge exams don't go through the normal schooling process and receive a normal South African matric certificate, you need to go through a whole process to get an exemption from USAF to be able to apply to a South African university with your international matric certificate. I made a whole video on that, which I will link on the screen, that you can go check out. I go through the process and what you need to do, the subjects you need to pick to be eligible to apply for one of these exemptions. To register for an exam, you need to contact your preferred institution. The cost will vary. You'll need to check with them to get into the specifics of what that might be. One tip I'll give you is to be quite on the ball when it comes to registering for exams. The slots tend to fill up quite quickly, and if you don't register quick enough, you might have to wait till the next sitting to be able to write. After you've registered, your institution will confirm your booking via email or call you, depends on the institution, and then they'll proceed to email you the specifics of your exams in the form of your statement of entry. Your statement of entry will express the exams that you're writing, the dates of those exams, and at what time of day you need to arrive at the institution to write those exams. It will also express your student ID, which would be helpful to memorize. That's just kind of a tag that they give you so they can identify you in the sea of students that are writing as a private candidate. You need your statement of entry at every exam you write, or you won't be allowed to write the exam. So print your statement of entry. Some schools will actually print it out for you and allow you to go collect the statement of entry at the school. It depends. Again, you can hash this out by just calling the institution that you want to write at, and they'll give you the details. If you're a private candidate, institutions often require you to give your ID or some ID photos, so they can give you a little tag that you have to wear so they can identify you as a private candidate when you're in the school. And this ID tag will have to be worn at all times whilst you're on the premises of the institution. When it comes to writing the exam, you can check the date and time of your exam on your statement of entry, as I mentioned previously. Take your statement of entry with you. Do not forget that. You'll be writing either an AM or a PM exam. The AM exams start at 9 and finish at 11, and the PM exams start at 1 and finish at 3. Irrespective of the duration of the exam that you will be taking, you will have to sit at the school for those 2 hours. That's just to prevent exploitation of time zone differences, so that someone in Cape Town can't call someone in the UK and be like, this was what was on the exam. It may seem a bit pedantic, but you just have to deal with it. Even if you're writing a 45-minute exam starting at 9, you will have to stay till 11. Most schools will allow you to take a book. You'll just have to hand it in to the teacher while you write the exam and then ask for it after the exam, so you can read to fill up that space until that slot is over and you are allowed to go home. When you pitch at the exam, take only the stationery you require. If you're doing past papers, in the front of the page, it'll tell you exactly what you need. At the International School of Cape Town, where I wrote my exams, all my stationery was required to be in a transparent bag. So be sure to check stuff like that before you pitch at the exam, because the rules that the schools have may vary. No electronics of any kind are allowed, whether that's a smartwatch or your phone. Most schools will have a box that you can put your phone into for the duration of the exam and collect afterwards, but definitely make sure that they actually facilitate that so that you don't take your phone and then have nowhere to put it whilst you're writing the exam. Also, something to note, you're not allowed to take your statement of entry into the actual exam hall, so maybe leave that in your bag outside before you go into the exam, just so that you can kind of alleviate that hassle. Once you're at the institution, you'll probably wait around for a bit, and then you'll be called on by some teacher and you'll be asked to line up in front of your classroom or the hall or wherever you'll be writing. When you arrive, there might be a big bulletin board with all the candidates and their names on it, stating in which classroom each candidate will be writing. If that is the case, make sure to check that before the exam actually starts so that you know where to go when the teacher's like, okay, get in line. In the hall or classroom where you're writing, you will be put at a desk with your ID number on it. This is why it might be useful to memorize your student ID number. Oftentimes teachers prefer to use your student ID instead of your name, since some names are quite difficult to pronounce. There will be an invigilator in charge of handing out the exam papers and reading out the rules to you. You aren't allowed to talk in the exam at all. You're allowed to raise your hand and ask for help from the invigilator, but obviously they won't be able to give you any answers or any notes based on the questions in the exam. You're also allowed to raise your hand and ask to go to the bathroom. So basically, if you have any questions, you're allowed to raise your hand and ask the invigilator quietly so that you don't disturb the rest of the students that are writing. At the end of your exam, the invigilator will ask you to stop writing. I would suggest stopping writing when they ask you to stop writing, otherwise you might get in trouble. So when they say to stop, put your pen down, sit back, and the invigilator will come around and collect your paper. If your exam ends before 11 a.m. or 3 p.m, you'll have to sit around till that time. So again, you can ask the invigilator for your book if you brought one, otherwise you'll have to stare at the ceiling or something. Some invigilators are more strict than others. It depends on the invigilator, but you might be allowed to whisper to each other and chat a bit amongst yourselves, but that isn't always the case, so I'd suggest rather just taking a book or you will be bored out of your mind. When the invigilator finally says that you're allowed to leave, then you can exit the classroom or hall quietly and you'll be allowed to collect all your items like your electronics and your statement of entry, whatever you gave in before the exam started. If you have an ID tag, you'll have to give your ID tag in before you leave. Don't forget to do that. Otherwise, there might be a bit of a mess the next time you want to go write an exam. And there you are with your statement of entry and your possessions in your arms. You are allowed to leave the premises. I know that writing exams can be very stressful. When I went to write my first exam, I was very nervous, but I promise it's not that big a deal. I've been through the entire thing and I've lived to tell the tale. I was homeschooled and wrote some of my first exams as a private candidate at some foreign school doing the Cambridge syllabus. I know it can be scary, but as long as you do what you need to prepare and you actually know the work that you need for your exam, there's no need to stress about the details of what exactly the rules are on the premises. That'll be hashed out very quickly and you'll just write your exam and it'll be over and you'll wonder what you were even stressed about in the first place. Okay, that's the end of this video. If you found it helpful, leave a like. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, as well as suggestions for other videos you might want me to make. If you liked the video, why not subscribe? This is the content that this channel is all about. So if you liked it, you'll probably like the rest of our stuff. And I'd be happy to have you stick around. That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching and good luck on your studying journey.